about is how does this groundwork transfer to the back? Well, all the work that we've been doing up to this point is just establishing some communication tools to be able to have a little bit of control of his feet. You notice that he's still sticking his nose over there closer than he wants, but he's not up over my head looking out over here and going to shoulder into me. He's standing there a little bit respectful right now. Well, the difference, if she wanted to know how much difference there is in establishing this on the ground rather than just getting on, there's a lot of difference, because he might do something, he or any horse might do something when you're on them that you feel so vulnerable that you can't do anything about it. And that's, I'm sure, what you've experienced when this horse, when you didn't want to leave his friend, you felt like you were just helpless because you didn't have any communication to his feet. And he would just take you off, and we're so vulnerable then. Where on the ground, we've got tools to establish that communication. When I put a bridle, I'm going to turn it here so you can see. When I put a bridle on a horse, and his feet are stuck, see? When I put a bridle on the horse, this is the first thing I want to do is get his nose through the headstall. Then I take my right hand and get a hold of the headstall up here, and I make sure that this part of the bridle is coming up between his eyes and that he's looking out through the headstall with his left eye. Then I'll get a hold of the bit, and then I'm just putting my thumb on top of his tongue and moving it back and forth until he starts licking my thumb, and then I'll raise this bit up into his mouth. The headstall is going to be a little short here, so I'm going to have to do the adjustment. I'm going to bring his left ear forward, lift that headstall up over the left ear. I think it'll be all right. Then I'm going to bring this right ear forward and lift that headstall up over his ear, and mindful of that eye to go out around so I didn't hurt his eye. And I think it's real important to be mindful of how we put that bridle on, because to me this is like a dentist. You know, if you get sitting there in that dentist chair, you're pretty vulnerable, and if that dentist hurts you, it's hard to relax. But if you're sure that dentist is doing his best to not hurt you, you can let him do things in your mouth that, you know, if you wouldn't let a normal person do. Same way with putting a bridle on a horse. If we're establishing the idea that we're not going to hurt him, it's going to help us. Now then, remember this, that anytime a horse that will pull on your hands will buck you off. So I don't want my horse to ever pull on my hands. So there are several different ways that we can establish some communication with a horse, and you know, you can let's just start in and go through some things. We can take the bridle rein. The right one is loose right now, and I bring this left one around. You see, and he's just moving his feet and wallering around there. So a horse that's pulling on the bit, you see, he can't find a way to get his feet stopped. When he finds a way to get his feet stopped, he's still pushing on the bit. I'm going to wait just a little bit. He'll find, there. See that change? Now, you don't want to go off and leave one all day like that, but just, you can do this. I don't generally let the rein loose, but he was going to stand there and just keep running over me if I stayed up in there. I'm essentially just putting the rein short enough here to the left. I'm just going to let him work against himself here a minute until he finds out that trying to raise up and trying to straighten up, trying to find his way through isn't going to gain him anything, but standing still and softening and putting slack in that rein will gain him some peace. Can you see the change in his eye there when he quit pulling on that bit?
So he's pulling against himself.
Yes. And right now the touch in his mouth is affecting his feet.
How's that?
Well, he's just moving around. He's trying to get relief through his feet. I'm going to go on the other side and do the same thing. Just by the way he was carrying his head and the way that he was walking around, I had a sneaking suspicion that this horse doesn't have a lot of feel in his face. So I'm going to establish a little bit of feel before I get on him.
What do you mean by feel in the face?
Just try to get rid of some of that braciness and him pulling on your hands. We've got to have some tools to be able to communicate effectively with his feet. And if he's resisting any kind of resistance that he feels in his face, it's going to be difficult to have clear communication. It's going to be like remember the old AM radio? I guess they still have them. If it wasn't quite on the station, the station would come in, but it was so staticky you couldn't hear it, and then you could just tweak it around until it finally come dialed in. See him just raising up and pushing on there.
So basically he's doing there what he would do if he just got on.
Yes, he's doing exactly what he would do if I got on him and tried to turn one way. He would just be up wallering around pulling on me. I feel like that anytime I can arrange it to where a horse, finds out on his own. See, that saddle's doing what my hands will be doing when I get on there. It's consistent. It's steady. It's not pulling on him too hard. And he just kind of wallering his way around through there. See him lowering his head now. He's starting to think. Now, if he'll stand there, I'll get him out of this. And this also gives you an opportunity to become sort of his friend and get him out of these binds that we put him in. Now then, let's tie him up here to the saddle. See, that's like pulling on a post. There's no feel to his feet. And if we don't have clear communication to his feet, we're vulnerable to whatever the horse wants to do. Yes. Or at least softening up some way. And there's not any softness in this horse yet.
So where do you not see soft?
Well, you see, he's got that brow rein tight, and he's got his nose stuck out against it. He's like, you ever seen somebody leading a little dog, and the little dog is out on the end of the leash just dragging the person around? That's what this horse is essentially doing with his mouth. He's been in control of whoever's on his back by pushing on your hand. So we need to get some communication to his body and to his face to be able to move his feet wherever we want him to move them, how we want him to move, and then set it up so that, I know there's two ends of this rope, but I can only see one. We need to set it up so that when this horse does the thing that we want, he steps into complete freedom. And that complete freedom will establish, that's his carrot. You know, when he does the thing that we want, that's his treat, and that treat means more to him than anything we could do, or even anything we could feed him. It's what horses, I think they prefer to be absent of all of our equipment, absence of us, and just feel free to go eat and graze and hang out with their friends, do whatever they want to do. And if we can find a way that when the horse does what we want, we give him that same sensation of freedom, they're going to really appreciate that. And that's what I'm going to try to do here. I'm going to try to get some forward motion connected in there with my hands. So we've got him established. With our groundwork earlier, we established a little bit of feel. He got used to feeling the rope on his rump. Just asked him to get forward here a little bit and see him wanting to raise his head up and kind of root on that bit. Now he's carrying himself pretty nicely, but I'm driving him up, his body up to his face, and he's kind of going left and right now, and I'm doing that with my hand. I'm pulling the left rein, then the right one. So I'm moving that bit across his tongue just a little bit. I'm not just pulling back on him. And I call that Liberace fingers. That's what that moving that tongue. So anytime I feel that horse pulling on my hands, I'm going to soften him by moving that bit just a little bit across his tongue until we get some communication, some softness. Well, if I'd pull back with both hands, all I would do would be bind him up there in the mouth and make him resist that because it hurt. I don't want to hurt him. I want small, soft, smooth communication. I want him to turn to the right here. When I took a hold of his mouth there just a little bit, he wanted to hollow out and push against my hands. I'm moving that bit just a little bit, and this right back here, what I'm doing with this flag is more important than what I'm doing with my hand. See, if I just pull on his face, all I'll get is that. But if I've got this coming up to his face, then we've got a useful tool. Now we've got something that's useful to gain that real good communication to his feet. Well, he's feeling me in his mouth. He's feeling me behind. And when let's say I want him to move to the right here, just slightly, just a little bit to the right. And when he does, he's pulling to the left right now. So I want him to move to the right, but he's pulling to the left. I didn't want him to back up. He's searching. He's searching for what I want. He'll move to the right here just a minute. Step up there. There. See that? That right front foot went out to the right. And the moment that horse moved that foot right there, he felt complete release from my hands. So at that moment, he found out that all I got to do is move away from the pressure that I was feeling, and it goes away. So it gave the horse a say in this conversation that we're having. It's not just me out here as a dictator telling him everything to do. He gets to acknowledge when he understood what I wanted. He gets to have a say in the matter. And he's doing pretty well here, so I'm going to go ahead and ride him just a little bit.
So why do you feel it beneficial to do what you're doing today? You'll do this with all of your training horses, no matter what the situation is. Why do you feel this is so valuable?
Every time we get around the horse, you're teaching him something. Doesn't matter if you know you're teaching them something or not. They're learning from you. And if you can get in the habit of doing things in a way, a deliberate way, that the communication ends up being better because you were in their presence, you've set the stage to where the next time you ride that horse or around it, it's going to be better. If we come around our horse and we're in a hurry, how many of you ever tried to catch a horse when you were in a hurry to go somewhere? You can't catch that son of a gun for nothing. But if you go out with a different attitude and then, train your horse that every time you show up, you're going to be the leader, that's all they want is leadership. They want freedom beside good, strong leadership, and they want to be comfortable. And that's the only place a horse can get comfortable in their own skin, is to be in the presence of strong leadership, strong, fair, and consistent. Then the horse can relax. I liken it to a speed limit. It's posted. I think it's posted 75 miles an hour out there on the interstate. That means you can run up comfortably, almost 80 miles an hour, and relax and drive. But if you're running 100 out there, you're looking in your mirror, you're looking at every parked car along the side, and you're slowing down every time because you can't relax. You're insecure. Talk about insecurity. Wonder if the speed limit wasn't posted, but it was determined by the mood of the officer on duty that day. You wouldn't know if you could go 10 miles an hour or 150. Always be looking over your shoulder, paranoid about when's he going to come. How many of you honestly can say that that's the way you've been treating your horse? You'll come out in a different mood every day. You're in a hurry one day, you got all the time in the world the next day. One day you let him come up and pet it, rub on you, and waller around you. It's the cutest thing you've ever seen. But then when you want to get something done, he's there wallering around, and now you're whooping it because you don't want it. See, that inconsistency will produce unwanted results. Now look at this horse right now. He's just standing here. He's been standing here watching me flap my arms and flap my mouth, and he's just here happy as he can be.
Why is that? Why is he?
Well, because we took some time to establish a role with a strange human being that he didn't know. Haven't you ever met someone for the first time and you talk to them 5 or 10 minutes and all of a sudden you can let down and talk to that person like you've known them your whole life? That's hopefully what I've been able to do with this horse. I've just communicated with him in a way that I believe other horses communicate with each other. And essentially I have become his buddy. And that's what you're going to need to do. In a little bit we're going to have her come in. And that's the thing she's been having a hard time breathing all morning, she said, because she didn't want to talk in front of people. So I'm preparing her a little bit to know it's going to be all right. We are going to bring her in, but I'm going to get on this horse right now. And but what I was getting at is if you can establish yourself as that leadership role that you need, his horse is going to get insecure when you ride away from your friends. He's going to get troubled. But hopefully now then we've got a relationship started and we've got some tools that perhaps will allow you to be able to communicate with him in a way that you can get something done.